Massive trinket buffs. Don't miss out on these delve items in Season 2. So last season, if you don't remember the first season, there was a point in time where the best trinket was actually coming from a delve. It was the Candle Boy trinket. If you don't remember, that was a major buff to people, and if they got the trinket, it was a best in slot. Let's see what the current best trinket items are from delves for those people like Greg from accounting who only really run delves.
Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Al, and in Season 2 content of the War Within expansion, we saw a variety of different endgame activities get revamped by quite a decent bit, with a lot of work being put into delves specifically. Mostly to improve the rewards from delves, whether you want to give players more opportunity to upgrade their hero track gear, craft some of the best gear available, or get some of the strongest trinkets from delves specifically. And delves are filled with some of the best trinkets in the game. Just running a sim on my character and trying to see what kind of items I can get from delves, I was legitimately surprised just how strong a lot of these items are. And many of the delve trinkets, even on hero track, are very competitive and comparable.
I'm not surprised because it's a smart way for Blizzard to get people to do delves. Because first of all, you're given better gear from delves, right? So the people who only do delves and will get more out of delves. But then at the same time, if you got the hardcore Andys out there, not hardcore WoW, but the hardcore retail players who are willing to do everything and anything to get the best in slot items, well, then what you're essentially doing is you're pushing them into delves as well, right? So you got your mythic plusers out there, you got everything else going on with raid and everything, but then you also get them to do delves because that's the best in slot. Like, Jesus Christ, Cadence. You got the best in slot items coming from delves as well, pushing them to do delves more often.
Some of the best mythic
gets people to do your content
from the liberation of Undermine instance. So if you're somebody who's been skipping out on delving and avoided majority of the content, you'll be surprised to know the delves actually saw a big addition of brand new trinkets for Season 2. And many of them are actually very, very competitive right now as of this moment. Definitely should run sims to find out what is the best for your character, but I did want to detail some of the strongest and the best delve trinkets that you should be on the lookout for. As they may not seem like massive trinkets, they're actually very, very solid, especially if you can get them on hero track level. As always, if you guys want to see more regular updates for Season 2 content of the War Within expansion, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe.
Yeah, Delves,
otherwise,
he's great.
Let's dive right in. Before we actually get into some of these trinkets, I first want to go over how to farm them. And it's also very, very important that if you are trying to get some of the most accurate data for your classes, every single class is going to utilize these trinkets differently or find strengths and weaknesses with these trinkets a little differently. It's also a good idea to sim your character, which can be done with the Raidbots website. At the very least, you can use the Raidbots feature to see if any of these trinkets are a gain. But for many classes out there, these trinkets are a gain, especially with them.
Hey, there's also tier lists out there. On if you go check out Icy Veins or Wowhead, there's usually tier lists in terms of what the best in slot trinkets are for your specific class, and they have different versions of it too. So rating versions, Mythic Plus versions, you'll be able to check it out. Even delve versions.
Buff, just depending on your class and your abilities, certain classes do synergize with some of these trinkets a little bit better. I will mention a couple of synergies that I found. I tried to do as much research as I could, but there's a lot of really, really strong trinkets from these delves. Majority of them will be at hero track, however, because you can't really get trinkets on mythic track. Champion track is pretty solid, but where they become competitive is on the hero track specifically. And if you are trying to farm delve trinkets, there's only so many ways for you to be able to get them on hero track. The first one will be from your weekly map in order to get a chance at a random hero track item, possibly one of these trinkets. And if you're someone who's just not getting lucky with maps, you can always spend 2,000 undercoins on a scrambler from Sir Furley Merlgaton to some of the underpin bots for a guaranteed map. Outside of that, you should spam at the very...
Remember though, side tip, do not do this in the underwater delve. You will waste your undercoin to get this shit. Because if you summon him in the underwater delve and he happens to be summoned at like a variation where he's not on the ground, sometimes his loot glitches and he's sitting there in the air and you can't loot it. And this map will not be sent to your mailbox. So if you can't loot it because of for whatever reason it's glitching out, you're completely screwed and you just wasted all your you wasted your undercoin.
Release tier 8 delves until you cap out for your weekly vault, just to have more chances at items from your great vault every single week. The delve that I picked for my fastest runs is probably the Street Side Sluice. If you're just trying to get a quick completion without too much navigating or exploration, I feel like that delve is really compact and everything is close together, so that one's probably the easiest and the most straightforward to get through. very, very quickly. If you are trying to get some of these trinkets even on champion track, you can always do bountiful delves for the keys in order to get more chances at just raw gear, but the hero track trinkets is what you're ideally hoping for. You can get them on lower tier, but hero track is really where they have their competitive edge if you're
Makes
really
sense.
trying to make sure you get in some of the best items from delves, specifically with a lot of the hero track items, as a lot of the mythic raid gear and dungeon gear will outclass the champion track delve trinkets, but the hero track is a lot more competitive and a lot more even with the mythic track.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're really mythic rating, hero track trinket from delves will, will suffice. It'll definitely be good enough. You'll pump that shit up all the way on the ranking shit, pump up its item level, and you'll be good. There's no reason to not get one of these. Like I said, mythic raiders, okay, there might be better best in slot trinkets for you if you are in fact mythic rating, but otherwise, hero track gear is going to be your peak anyways.
And that's what we ideally are looking for. The first of those trinkets that many classes actually enjoy is the Turbo Drain 5000, a simple trinket that provides you your primary stats plus your harmful abilities have a chance.
Your harmful abilities have a chance to drain your target's electric power, dealing 300k nature damage over 5 seconds. A target dies when being drained. You gain 25% movement speed. Damn, that's a nice trinket, actually.
To deal nature damage to a target, and if the target
movement speed
dies
buff
while
is
being
nice.
drained, you also gain
Samiccus.
movement speed. The movement speed is pretty okay, but primarily what you like about this trinket is the raw damage that it provides. It's just an extra additional zap damage that's fairly consistent, even though it's passive, but it is generally solid, and many players do stand by the fact that this trinket is generally one of the better ones from delve.
I'm glad it's passive. The best way usually to balance out your trinkets is have one passive and one active. When both are active, it does kind of like mess up your rotation a little bit. It becomes too much of being on you to perfectly time your trinkets, and usually 2 clickable trinkets will need to be done, like they will be optimized by doing them at the same time, and you don't want to do them at the same time, or you can't because they're both on cooldown. So typically you're going to want one active trinket and then one that's a passive that just generates on its own.
So just in terms of raw output that it has. If you're looking for a passive trinket that just does additional damage, which is primarily single
I'm a lazy degen, so I actually like 2 passive trinkets. I wouldn't have to think about it, but
targeted, but can be alright.
Can't always
in
win.
terms of the amount of times it procs within like Mythic Plus content. It just ends up being a very, very solid option that provides us with the stats we need, but also with the additional damage output that it offers. Another trinket that's also very solid, especially for certain classes that play around specific cooldowns, is the Funhouse Lens. It is an on-use trinket with lots of primary stats from intellect, agility, and
look through the lens and randomly scale up or down, gaining 10k crit strike or haste for 15 seconds. What does it scale up or down? Does it change your size, that means? I'm guessing.
and strength.
Let's
but
see.
it also has a 1.5 minute cooldown, providing you of either 10,000 critical strike or haste for 15 seconds. This trinket is a great on-use trinket for a select class.
Tall today, tiny tomorrow. Yeah, I'm guessing it changes
That
your
are in
size.
a 1.5 minute CD window. Most classes that Blizzard designs are either a 3-minute class or a 2-minute class, and this trinket technically considers as with 3-minute classes just because you could use a trinket with your cooldowns, then natively by itself outside of cooldowns, then
Right.
it syncs back up with your cooldowns. But for certain specs like Windwalker Monks, Unholy Death Knights, Arms Warriors, this is a great synergetic trinket that lines up with their cooldowns easily, and it provides a stat that all 3 of those at the very least can utilize. Technically, there's also subtlety rogues who can benefit from crit, but the haste is just not really that worth it, but that will be another spec that is technically in that 1.5 minute CD window. It's a surprisingly good trinket that provides you a huge bulk of stats, depending whether you get the haste
Yep,
or whether
I
you
was
get the
right.
crit. And for specs that are 1.5 minute CD that utilize either one of those stats somewhat equally, it's just a huge bulk of stats to line up with your cooldowns, and it generally ends up being a very, very sought after combo.
Yeah, nice little buff there too with what's it called? With Lust early on in a pull. That's a nice way to do it, or saving it for Lust whenever it happens. That sounds like a massive red. Yeah, it sounds pretty damn. Even for my Blood Decay, that haste buff sounds pretty damn nice.
Another one that many classes that enjoy secondary stats love is a Mechano-Core Amplifier.
Your harmful abilities have a chance to power the amplifier, randomly increasing either your highest secondary stat by 4K, or your lowest secondary stack by 5K. Now, these boosts to your stats are always a good one.
Specifically, if you're playing specs
Especially
like
your
Fury
first one.
Warriors or anything that loves secondary stats
What's up,
over
Rutari?
primary. The trinket is an agility and a strength trinket, so casters won't get to utilize it, but it provides you with either one of two powerful effects. Either your harmful spells and abilities have a chance to increase either your highest secondary stat by about 4,000 or your lowest stat by 5,000, so you get more stats on your worst stat. So if your class utilizes all stats fairly equally, even your worst stat providing you decent damage gain, this ends up being a very solid trinket that has a
It's a nice one. Like I said too, Blood DK. We don't really favor, like, we like haste, but all the stats are you know, almost equally viable. So this is a nice one for us too. And you know, there's some RNG involved. Yes, you're going to get better DPS output when your your highest secondary stat is the one that gets the buff, but still nice.
Really decent uptime. So specs like Fury Warrior in particular, for them it'll provide haste or mastery depending how they're statted, but even a stat like versatility, which is generally something they don't really invest heavily into, 5,000 proc of versatility is a huge gain in damage, and with the uptime that this trinket has, it is right now one of the better options for a handful of specs. So it really will depend on the spec that you have, but if you are the type of spec, maybe like Archimage for instance, I guess Archimage doesn't work because this thing doesn't have intellect, but if, let's say this thing had intellect on it, Archimage...
lay waste to this realm.
Alpha Man, thank you for the follow. Welcome to our Scourge. And Deaky, I don't know if I missed your call out. Thank you for the follow and welcome to our Scourge as well.
It collects all the stats somewhat equally. Haste is a better stat at the moment. Mastery is also highly valued, but technically everything is a gain either way. So for specs like those that basically use everything, this is a very, very solid gain for the performance that it offers. So these three are some of the better trinkets that you can get from Delves, and then there's two other options that are also consistent, though not nearly as flavorful or as exciting. If you're a class that enjoys mastery, the Suspicious Energy Drink is another solid option.
When you use harmful spells or abilities, there is a chance you also take a sip of an energy drink. It's like a Red Bull thing here, increasing your mastery by 4.6k for 10 seconds, getting an additional 689 mastery if you are below 35% health. Interesting.
Using
this actually sounds good for, like, what's it called, PvP.
Spells and abilities grants you a chance at a mastery, and you get additional mastery if you're below a certain amount of health. So in some cases, this could be a good trinket, like in raids, if let's say you're constantly dropping super low on health, or in Mythic Plus dungeons, if you are getting hit by AoE damage and super high keys.
Yeah, good for Unholy DK.
That could actually give you a little bit extra stats, but this one is specifically designed for mastery focused classes. But its uptime is really good. It is available for intellect users, agility users, and strength users, so any class that utilizes mastery quite a decent bit, it's actually going to be at a pretty decent gain. And depending on the content that you do, if you do find yourself at fairly lowish health numbers fairly regularly, you can actually gain a little bit extra mastery out of it. So this could maybe be good for progression content, like in certain raid fights. Players are just going to get hit with a ton of AoE. You're naturally going to be brought to low health. It is part of a healer mechanic to keep everybody alive. So in those cases, Suspicious Energy Drink could actually be really solid there. Another trinket that's surprisingly decent is the Rat Fang Toxin. Nothing insane or nothing to write home about, but it's a solid trinket nonetheless. It is an unused trinket that allows
I actually know this one. This one's one of the DK. It's like mid-tier for DK, but it's probably mid-tier for a lot of people. Your harmful spells and abilities apply Rat Fang Toxin to your target, stacking up to 5 times, releasing all toxin stacks to deal 946k nature damage plus 108k per stack over 5 seconds.
To inject nature damage into the target.
It gives you a little damage
available
boost.
for intellect, agility, and strength users. While
Sam,
the damage
you're
numbers do
mid-tier.
seem a little bit low on its own, 900, almost a million nature damage, plus about, 100,000 over 5 seconds per stack, and you can get up to 5 stacks. So if you're looking at 1.5 million damage every 1.5 minutes from the trinket, the damage that it provides, at least in comparison to everything else that's available, is very comparable and not that bad. It's a purely single target trinket that is
I wonder if this is post buffs, because all these hotfix buffs just went into effect. They're boosting like by 20% all these damage trinkets. So this one certainly got a 20% buff. At least, so that would be nice to see if this was pre or post that buff.
There's an injection of raw
I'd have to look.
damage. Now, the next trinket is going to be maybe a little bit more specific in terms of the content you get to use.
What's this one called? Let me see real quick. I'll look it up. What's this one called? Fang Toxin. Yeah, okay. Fang Toxin trinket. Let me see if I can find it. Fang item. Wowhead. Let's see if this one's been updated at all. 900k. Yeah, so this is post buff. You see right here, it's 500. Well, this is 655 to 600 item level. So never mind. This is pre. Trinket, March 21st. General discussion. Let's see if this is the increased by the buffs. This is a fucking forum. Trinket usage blue tracker. Huge season 2 trinket buffs hit live. Let me see here. Blastmaster. I feel like the Rat Fang is one of them. Let me see if I can, hold on. Let's do this real quick. Jarvis for search. Let's search for rat. There it is. Yep. Rat Fang got the buff. So I don't know if this is pre-buff or post-buff for this. But all these got a 20% buff. So this is probably even better now if this is what it looked like pre-buff. Because this shit got a 20% boost to its overall damage. That's pretty damn big. That means this thing's going to be doing like 1.2k now. Rather than, it would be, this is 946,000, be over, yeah, 1.2 million damage rather than what it's currently doing. So, damn, that'd be a nice little boost there. We'll have to see.
I can check it out in game. Of raw damage. Now, the next trinket is going to be maybe
Control
a little
F, you
bit more
boomer. Yeah, okay.
specific in terms of the content you get to use it in. Like, if you do a lot of Mythic Plus dungeons, this may be a somewhat of a solid choice to get from delves. Nothing insane, but the trinket is something that does initial damage, very similar to the Rat Fang, but this one is a little bit better for Mythic Plus content for the 2-minute cooldown that it offers. It's a trinket available for...
Fashion a nearby garage into a sphere and launch it... garbage, I said garage. And launch it into the sky. After 3 seconds of gathering momentum, the sphere crashes into the target location, dealing 2.5 million physical damage split between all enemies in the area. Nice Mythic Plus trinket.
Where you get to fashion nearby garbage into a sphere and launch it into the sky. After 3 seconds of gathering momentum, sphere crashes into the targeted location, dealing 2.5 million damage split evenly amongst all enemies in the area. When fully upgraded, the trinket does about 2.5 million damage every 2 minutes. And it does have its damage split amongst multiple enemies, so whether you use it on a single target or in AoE, the trinket at the very least has consistent value that it provides every 2 minutes. It does have a little quirk where it has a bit of a delay, like it tosses glob out into the air. It takes a little bit before it lands, but if you plan around when you use this trinket, or maybe use it during like a big burst window when an enemy takes more damage, it could be a very, very solid gain and very comparable to some of the other options that are available. Now, the last trinket we'll talk about is probably the wackiest of the bunch, and this one will really depend how it scales, depending on your class, depending on what abilities you use. And certain classes are definitely going to find more value in it than others. And that is going to be the Noggenfogger's Ultimate Deluxe, a trinket that provides you critical strike, but no primary.
Summon a Blackwater pirate to aid you in combat for 20 seconds.
Stats, and it summons a Blackwater pirate to aid you in combat for 20 seconds. It's a very unique trinket that does not seem that strong at first, unless that Blackwater pirate...
Look, I'm trying to help you guys out, tell you which trinkets are best in the game. Thank you, Joshua, for literally summarizing my entire Twitch chat so far during this video. Dyslexia, you guys are accusing me of having dyslexia, Alzheimer's, baldness, and high blood pressure. What the fuck? I'm trying to help you guys out here. Fucking toxic-ass chat.
Has additional value behind him. And apparently the pirate does scale with the character that uses the trinket. The trinket is a simple interaction where you just basically get to summon a pirate to aid you in combat. So if, let's say, I get in combat with the Kelp Fist, and then I summon a pirate to aid me, you'll see a pirate pop up and start attacking the Kelp Fist with auto attacks. This pirate, however, scales with the player. And for some classes that actually have gains within, let's say, auto attack speeds, the faster auto attack speed you have, that pirate will scale with your own auto attack speed.
So that's nice. The auto, there he is too. It's actually kind of a cool animation, that pirate. Yeah, I mean, the reason why I actually show the chat on the YouTube videos is because I think you guys will actually offer something to the people watching it. Like maybe you guys have good points or something. No, but it turns out to be a black box of fucking hate and degeneracy, and people will look at this shit while they're watching the video and be like, the fuck is wrong with this guy's chat? All it does is rip on him for like 3 hours, 4 hours while he's streaming. And that, yeah, that's the truth. You guys get a little sample of what I fucking deal with the whole time I'm streaming. Bunch of degens throwing tomatoes at me like the entire time I'm streaming. Jesus Christ. Sunflower seeds help with the brain. Okay.
Well, some classes are definitely going to have different scaling with this
Unbelievable.
trinket. Though any class that gains any kind of advantage on auto attack speed or any kind of haste buffs or global cooldown reduction buffs, then this trinket will scale with you. So most melee classes that do have access to anything that increases your auto attack speed specifically, this trinket will scale directly with it. And apparently this thing can do a lot of damage over like a 5-minute encounter. A huge portion of it will be pure single target. There is a little bit of an issue though from this trinket. It doesn't always appear properly in details, as it is its own entity. You summon an NPC into combat and the add-on just doesn't really know how to track it properly. So sometimes you may not see those numbers attributed to you, but know that the trinket does end up doing work. Even in logs, it shows up.
I'm not going to lie, that kind of sucks that isn't properly tracking logs sometimes, because that's what matters. I mean, if you're doing more DPS but it's not showing, how the fuck is your group going to know? How are you going to know? I mean, the whole point is to lay your dick on the table in front of everybody, and if you can't do that, I mean, what the hell's the point of it? If it's not going to be tracked properly, who gives a shit if you're actually doing more damage? Everybody knows all that matters is what shows.
As a separate entity. It doesn't attribute the damage as part of your damage, but the trinket does do a significant bit of your overall damage when you do summon him on some of those classes that scale with it. Excellent.
That kind of ruins the
best
trinket.
thing I would do in that situation is sim your character, and if the trinket does end up giving you a significant gain in pure single target, then it may actually be a decent.
Sam cares only about meters. That's not true. I'm American. I care about inches. Inches.
Bit of a gain to use in Liberation.
Let's get that right.
Even though it doesn't technically inflate your damage within the details, within logs, it does provide a significant damage output either way. So definitely
it's like an augmentation trinket, yeah.
Specifically, but if you're somebody who's playing Outlaw Rogue right now in Season 2, apparently that class, that spec specifically, has some of the best scaling with that trinket as of this moment. So you may want to be on the lookout for this one at all times. As always though, I want to thank all of you guys so much for watching, and hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did enjoy it or found it informative, go ahead and give this video a like. I would very much appreciate it. Join our Discord community to keep up with all the newest updates and patch notes that appear as the season goes on within Season 2 content. Also, let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.
Yeah, good video. Overall, trinkets being viable from delves, that's not a new thing. Season 1 had some really good trinkets. As I said, one of the best in slot trinkets for a while actually came from delves. I'm not sure if Chad actually got anything out of the fucking video. You guys just ripping my ass open the entire time. But overall, good video. I'll link it in the chat and for anybody who wants to watch it later on down below.